I'm not going to really say leaks, but more like rumors. And basically, what's going on here is Valve's next gen Steam Deck 2 console. It's reportedly planned to release in 2028, with significant manufacturing changes expected for the sequel of the highly successful handheld gaming device, according to well-known industry leaker Kepler L2, who posted on NeoGAF. I found out about it from a website called techpowerup.com. Valve is targeting 2028 refresh for the second gen Steam Deck. However, the ongoing supply chain shortages of DRAM and NAND flash could cause disruptions to these plans, potentially leading to delays. Interestingly, this period is when the shortages are expected to start easing, so Steam Deck 2 could still be released on time, depending on Valve's sourcing capabilities. Basically, right now, nobody has the RAM. Around 2028, people are going to be starting to be able to get the RAM, so maybe Valve won't have to delay past 2028. Here's what Kepler L2 said. Valve doesn't have a semi-custom SoC prepared yet, while console brands like PlayStation and Xbox are likely to have the specifications for their APUs locked in advance of the PlayStation 6 and Project Helix. Valve won't. And that means that Valve will still have room to adjust their requirements. And there's rumors that they're going to switch from a semi-custom APU like they used with the Steam Deck to something that's more off the shelf, which would be a lot more like what we see in a lot of the other handhelds. So I got a bunch of questions for you guys. Number one, it's a rumor. So the first question is always, do you believe the rumor? And let's start there, and we'll hit the other questions in a little bit. Rich, what do you think about these rumors of Valve ditching the semi-custom APU and going with something just off the shelf?
Yeah. So I believe my interpretation of what Kepler said, right? I believe Kepler said some things. You can see what he said in the NeoGAF thread, and I'll allude to them here. But I do think Tech Power Up kind of takes some liberties with how they
Mm-hmm.
reported on this. Like they said, significant manufacturing changes expected for this sequel to the highly successful handheld gaming device. And I think those significant manufacturing changes they're alluding to are Kepler saying they will not use a custom SoC, right? So that feels like they really like dragged out what Kepler was saying there.
Got to get paid by the word, man.
Yes, exactly. And what to be specific, what Kepler said was will not use a semi-custom SoC like Xbox or PS6. He did not say like the original Steam Deck. And so like it's unclear to me what he meant there. The way I read that is that they don't have a deal for a semi-custom SoC yet. Who knows when they'll land that, right? Like they are opportunistic pragmatists, right? If they get a good deal, they will take it. But if they don't, then they're kind of just forced to do off the shelf. And so I assume that nobody has confirmed that they have a deal for a custom SoC or a semi-custom SoC, and I do believe that to be true.
Yeah, well, okay. One of the reasons why they might not have a deal for a semi-custom SoC is because I don't remember what's the word I'm thinking of, what the context was, but there was some manufacturer, and I don't remember who it was, but they said that they were trying to partner with AMD, and AMD said, you have to commit to buying this many chips from us, or we're not doing it. I think it was like 10 million chips. And like at this point right now, X number of years, 4 years into the Steam Deck One's life cycle, I don't think that they've sold 10 million Steam Decks yet. So that would be pretty tall order for Valve to say, yeah, we're going to buy 10 million of those chips. Like the whole reason that they have the, is it Sephiroth or Aerith? I can't remember right now.
The original is Aerith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever SoC that they had, not Galileo. Starts with a
Those names
G.
get mixed up, right? So like,
They
yes,
do.
Galileo is a name, but I think Galileo was like the code name for the GPU on the APU. I'm not sure. I don't want to get it wrong, but I
Well, okay,
believe
we'll just say
you
the
can
APU.
say Aerith and Sephiroth. Aerith for Steam Deck LCD and Sephiroth for OLED, I believe. Those are
Right.
the
Well,
APU code names.
I forgot where I was going with this, but basically, like they don't
Sorry.
want to. That's okay. That's not your fault. Basically, they don't want to say, yeah, we're going to buy 10 million chips if they're not going to sell 10 million systems, because then they're sitting on they're sitting on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And thankfully, they didn't have to do that with the first Steam Deck because,
Right.
again, they just kind of lucked into a deal.
Right.
As we've said on this podcast, this was a chip that was like slated for Microsoft, and Microsoft, they were kind of like, nah, we're good. And so AMD just was left holding the bag. So when Valve wanted this chip for themselves instead, it was an easy choice for AMD to make.
Yeah, and they could probably get it pretty cheap because it was already supposed to be for something else. And AMD's like, I don't want these.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think, Russ? You believe the rumor?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't see much new information in this. So it feels like this is just all makes logical sense. Like there is, yeah, sure. They don't have an agreement for a semi-custom APU like they did with the Van Gogh one because there's no semi-custom APU that they want to make an agreement on yet. That's my guess is that like, they're looking for something kind of like Strix Halo where it's got that big old GPU and maybe there's not something that really hits for them yet to be able to either order or make an agreement for just yet because honestly I think probably because Xbox and PS6 are like taking up all of AMD's time and maybe they don't have the time for that. So all this makes sense to me in terms of just they probably don't have a custom APU yet. Whether or not they're going with something off the shelf, that doesn't ring super true to me. It feels like they're just kind of waiting for a better time.
Yeah, I agree with you, Russ, in that like sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Bill, but like I was gonna say, I think that Valve are the sort of people that are just gonna wait until they get a deal. And so like
Right.
they if it doesn't come if they were going to launch in 2028, but they didn't find a deal, they're just gonna wait and we'll get it when they get the deal.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That it's more likely that they would just say, "Okay, we're not going to buy off the shelf stuff," because I mean, you buy the off the shelf stuff, and now your system is just like everybody else's. There's nothing to differentiate your system from all the other stuff that's out there right now. When you buy a Steam Deck, you get the most efficient chip, you get the cheapest handheld for the most part. And because of those two things, it makes it really attractive to customers. If they're selling the same thing that everybody else is selling, then why would you even bother? And, if people are buying PC games, they're buying it from Steam anyway. So Valve doesn't get anything out of it.
Yeah. So I would just say, even going a step further than that, it's not just that they're buying the same thing everyone else has. It also opens it up so people can buy what they have. And so you'll see copycats of Steam Deck too, if you've got something like that. And so one of the special things about that Van Gogh for a while was that it was the only one that was so super efficient. Now we've got like the Z2 Alpha or whatever the other one is that actually looks very much so like the Steam Deck APU, but that was years after the fact. And so I think that just from a business perspective, I would kind of be thinking along those lines as well, as I need something that's, they call it in our world, when I was in the military, they called it exquisite, something that was just not found elsewhere, basically. And that's kind of what they're going for.
One more point on this, like, will they do a semi-custom or not, is I've said this before on the podcast, but they may be a victim of their own success here, right? With the success of the Steam Deck, that makes it so that other manufacturers want to build handheld PCs, which now makes this market of APUs it puts it in higher demand than it ever used to be. Hopefully, AMD, Nvidia, and Intel are thinking about that and increasing their supply. But as you can see, increasing the supply is very wrought right now, right? Like that's not something that they can just do. So I think that, with it becoming more in demand, less supply, they are just a victim of their own success, and it's going to be harder to make a deal. I still think they want to, and they'll try their best, but it does seem like it becomes harder after the success of the Steam Deck.
My next question is, do you guys think, if let's pretend that the 2028 target is true, do you think they're running out of time if they don't already have a chipset in mind? I mean, I was rewatching actually I'm trying to bring up my show notes so I get the name right. The Bringus Studios video where he got his hands on the prototype Steam Deck, and he opened it up, and there was like one of the parts in there had a date stamped on it of November 2019, when they had manufactured that part for a prototype Steam Deck. Now that was not the APU, because the APU had a heat sink over it, and so he couldn't see exactly what that was. Although that was supposedly an off-the-shelf CPU as well. Well, 2019 is pretty close to February. It's December 2021, which was when the original Steam Deck was supposed to actually launch. And if we look at now, we're in 2026 to 2028. That's 2 years. Do you think that they can hit 2028 if they don't already have hardware planned? Russ?
Yeah, I think so. The Steam Deck was a Gen 1 device, so they didn't learn just about the APU and how to get that running while they were building the Steam Deck. They were figuring everything else out. Controls, ergonomics, battery, all those things probably had a factor as well. It may not have been APU related, and why it took so long for them to get it right. And so software too, right? So it's going to be a challenge to make Steam Deck 2. I mean, I'm sure they're going to put a lot of work into it, but I think that, they've got a lot of corporate knowledge at this point of how to do that in the first place. So I'm not too worried about it. Again, I really think it does come down to what AMD has available to deliver and whether or not it's matching what they're looking for right now. And I don't know. I think that Valve is the type of people who will just wait until it's the right time and the right chip.
Yeah, and as long as they're waiting, they're probably iterating too, right? So they probably have in-house prototypes just like that Bring Us prototype, and just not just a Bring Us prototype, but there were several other prototypes, right? Whether they were just like 3D printed, like hand prototypes, or full-on devices that you could use. And so they are iterating through this, and each time you're probably going to get parts that are pretty recent for that prototype, but it won't be until they're ready, until they have something that they can kind of say, yes, we're going to fire off with this set. Like Russ was saying, maybe when they find a deal, that's when that prototype becomes something that they're going to kind of solidify into an actual product.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I will say,
go ahead.
Let me just cut in. Sorry. So I just, as you're talking, I was just envisioning when they get to the point where their Steam Deck 2 is out, I am going to send an email to them and say, hey, you need to fly all 4 of us out there to have a live nerd nest in Valve headquarters. Show us all the prototypes and let us play around with them and stuff and talk about it. Because they showed off pictures and stuff hey, these are all the things that we did, all the iterations. Let us kind of see that process too. And I feel like the 4 of us would have so much fun with that. I'm sure other people would enjoy it too, but man, I just want to get my hands on all those.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, remember the poster that they had that had all the different prototypes, in I don't know, there's a 5x10 grid or something. And they had all these different ones. And I remember when I had actually had On Deck, which was the Steam Deck podcast that I had started, me and my friend Lloyd were going through and looking at each one, and we're like, what the hell were they doing with that thing? That thing was weird looking.
Yeah, I love that picture. Just looking through all of it and seeing the iteration that must have happened through that. It's just amazing to see.
Very cool. Well, let us know what you guys think. Do you think 2028 is in the cards, or do you think maybe it's going to get delayed even further? Let us know what you think in the comments section down below. This was just a small part of my podcast, the Nerd Nest podcast. And if you enjoyed it, then do me a favor and click on that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, then I think you should check out the link in the description down below the like button. It's going to take you to the full podcast, so you can check out the entire conversation and a whole lot more. If that sounds good, I hope to see you over there. Stay rad, and thanks for watching.